Okay.
All right, so let's take a quick look at the product. This is a recording, and the reason why we're working with a recording is because the estimation process typically runs for a number of hours, sometimes days, to give you a full picture of the network ups and downs and so forth. So you can see that that everything's managed through vCenter. You simply select the virtual machines that you believe you're going to want to migrate. You identify the destination that they will go to. The identification of the destination can be done through vCenter Enhanced Link Mode, or it can be done through a RESTful API where you just give the information to the on-premises vCenter. So we identify the virtual machines, run the estimation. Again, this estimation ran over 12 hours, so we kind of traveled through time there. And then we identify a set of VMs, view the estimation of how long it will take, view an overall estimation for all of our VMs, and very importantly, we can compare migration over the network versus migration that's assisted with a device. Okay, so we get two different estimates of the time required. If you have a lot of data, it may be the case that going on a device is going to be faster, even if it's 2 days on a truck versus 12 days over a network.
A question about the UI.
Yeah.
Can it be run outside of vCenter in this UI or in the HTML5 UI for the folks who don't want to go into the old Flash vCenter UI?
Serge?
No, we're vCenter plugin.
Right. Only the Flex client, not the HTML5 vCenter client? Any plans to change that?
Not in this moment. As about destination, we have just REST API, and we can manage whatever over there. But here it is.
If you're looking for a GUI, it's got to be through Flex at the moment.
Right.
The problem is the industry is moving towards HTML5, and the new client is going to be the pervasive approach.
Right, okay, okay. So,
Yeah, of course, it's JSON between just client. We're just in a normal situation what VMware is pushing, I would say, at this moment.
right. Let's take a quick look at migration. Once the estimation is done, we have the option of migrating a group, migrating VMs independently, and then of course we can also do a migration over a data transport device. So if we identify a migration group, we give it a name, we select the VMs that belong to this migration group, and then we commence the migration process. Just identifying, again, just like in the estimation stage, we just identify the network, the compute, and storage resources at the destination.
So we use specific resource pool in a destination, and we'll just use compute and
so we do a quick review.
from there.
We do a quick review. We start the migration process. And then we can monitor the status as the group is migrating. Once again, we're going to travel through time. Oh, well, this is the this is where we can throttle the back pressures. And then we can observe.
That was interesting that you had to go in and manually throttle that.
Well, we were just demonstrating it. We don't, yeah, it's true though. We don't allow it to be done automatically. It's done under administrative control.
Okay.
Replication group, if it's a set of machines, and you can define even single machine as a migration group. In this case, we allow system administrator to make some last changes before machine will be launched in the cloud. You can identify a set of independent machines. In this case, we migrate completely these machines without any interruption. What is also important here, oh, by the way, this is a graph that you can see. This just show you that actually what we did in a source is actually exactly the same you can see in the destination. So it's a live migration.
Yeah, we basically took a few of the VMs, opened up various tools, wrote some data, just so that you can see at the end that we actually do, allow writes to take place.
What is also important, and this is a link between estimator, predictor, and runtime situation. If from estimator, we can see that amount of generating data is above bandwidth, available bandwidth, because we are probing network as well. We set up alarm to system administrator. It will be alarm before this virtual machine will be started. And it will allow the system administrator to apply back pressure. Because we don't want to automate back pressure by ourselves. We do not know if we too aggressively replicate, application performance can be degraded. And it's really up to system administrator. So we are automatic and not automatic. It depends on how system administrator wants to run it.
Yeah, so as Serge mentioned, the default behavior when we're doing a migration of virtual machines in a group is to give the administrator the ability to say whether to complete the migration. So now the software has said that we're ready to migrate the last bits of data and restart the VMs. Do you want to do that? And this gives the administrator the opportunity to just double check, make sure everything looks good, and then pull the trigger. In the event that all the VMs are being migrated independent of each other, the default is for the VMs to just go one after another and fire up when they arrive.
By the way, if virtual machine has been shut part off, we continue migration from the daemon. We open same virtual disk from the daemon, and we use what they call internal I/O filter running in a daemon, and we continue replication. And as we mentioned, whatever happened, network is down, source host is down, vMotion, snapshots were perfectly fine because VAI allows us to see all I/O events.
So now we're just going to the destination, opening up those documents that we were editing while the data was being migrated, and sure enough, you can see the data that was written while the virtual disk was being transported is all in the destination along with the copy. So that's a quick look at migration of virtual machines in a group. Let me very quickly jump over and show you migrating independently. Very much the same process. The only difference is that we have not selected a migration group. We've just selected a set of VMs.
It is automatically migrated fully to the cloud.
And over there we select the auto start. And it's the same process. Identify the destination in terms of the compute, storage, and network resources.
It's a one-time migration. It's not continuous replication then. Just the use case is
Next
a
slide.
single migration.
You're exactly right. This is a one-time migration of a VM from one data center to another data center. And because it's just that one migration, we can do it with a very lightweight tool. So it really, the cloud service providers that we were talking to were saying, the difficult thing is if I have to tell somebody that they have to set up a DR infrastructure in order to simply migrate their VMs to my hosting facility, that is a real steep curve. It really puts a lot of friction in the onboarding process. Isn't there a more straightforward way to get their VMs from their data center to my data center? If it's strictly a lift and shift, I'm going with a virtual machine based on VMware to another VMware environment, it should be simpler than a full-blown DR tool.
At what point in time do you consider the VM ready for that final cutover and the final migration?
That's configurable, actually. Okay, so it's a matter of how much time, what window you can tolerate for downtime for the VM. If you don't mind, a whole bunch of data being required to be shipped over, then you can set it that way. But if you really want to minimize the downtime for the VM, you make a very, very small amount of data for the final migration.
Yeah, so we create a time window and you guys figure that out based on the transfer rate?
Yep.
Exactly, yeah. So you can define amount of not replicated data before final migration, same as vMotion.
Yep.
So VMware only solution?
At this point, it is designed for a VMware to VMware. We can't comment about anything other than that.
It's not because not, but because we...
Well, so the truth is you're initiating a RESTful API call. Mm-hmm. You're replicating from place to place. What we're not talking about is any communication or conversion to take place on the tail end.
Right.
To bring it live in an AWS and Azure or whatever else.
I'm not saying that couldn't
We're not
be
talking
done.
about that yet.
Right.
I get that.
Right.
So obviously you're talking about plans to move in that direction. That's good, because that's the way it should be, right? It's the multi-cloud world, right?
Yep.
What we've
That's
heard. But it is truly RESTful API. And this is just a GUI
It's for
to
me.
show us what's taking place.
Exactly.
For management,
Exactly.
it's RESTful API, and because of that, perfectly fine for Azure, for
Right.
Google,
Right.
for
It's a
everything.
replication.
But again, as Rich mentioned, we don't want to comment it in this moment.
I'm not
So
asking to.
how is this licensed?
That's a great
Per
question.
VM or?
Yeah. Well, there are really two use cases, right? There's the use case for a one-off project. I've got 120 virtual machines. I need to get them from here to there, and then I never want to use this tool again. So for that, we would price per VM migrated, right? Now, on the other hand, if you're a cloud service provider and you've got hundreds of customers and you want to help them onboard on a continuous basis by making the tool available to VMware administrators all around the world, right? You can license it on a subscription basis for unlimited use by your customers, and it's licensed per data center destination.
Okay.
Yes?
Can I ask who your main competitor is when customers are looking at you? Who else are they comparing you with?
Well, so there are a number of solutions for live migration, many of them with the foundation in DR, right? So all the usual suspects are there. And that's what many cloud service providers have been recommending. Beyond that, I can't name anybody specific.
Cloud Endure.
Yeah, we do see, yeah. It's really almost anybody that's in DR has pivoted to say, oh, we now have a migration solution too. The challenge is that that migration solution comes with a lot of stuff in the trunk.
But you know, if you see who can provide migration, you will see tons of companies. But if you return back mentally in a slide when we show to you our capabilities, you can see that these capabilities is very unique. For example, most of the companies use or agent inside guest machine, which is not welcome for lots of companies. Some of them use snapshots, which is not welcome. Snapshots are very dangerous, I would say. There is no snapshots, by the way. For backup, yes, of course, you must. But for migration, you don't need it, and you shouldn't do it.
Well, there's too much catch up at the tail end, right? Even if you bring up a snapshotted machine, rehydrate in another location, you still have to do that cache relevancy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in addition to that, snapshots definitely impact whatever infrastructure, performance, and so on. Change block tracking, rereading data from the disk, discrete, because it's discrete. So that's definitely, for backup, VIDP, it's a good protocol, good API, but it's for snapshots, for backups. For DR and for migration, you don't need it.
Yeah.
VIA is the best.
I think if somebody was here from VMware, they would be talking about using vSphere replication to achieve this if it's two VMware locations.
So vSphere replication is a snapshot-based technology, right? So they have a minimum, the minimum RPO they can achieve is about 5 minutes. So there is a bit of catch-up, yeah. So I don't know, I actually haven't heard from our partners of anybody using replication for a migration task, but that's...
If your goal was to stick into a VMware environment forever, this is the kind of thing that an SRM or a storage-to-storage replication
Yep, exactly.
could accomplish. That's not your use case, right? You're doing a one-time only, say you're disabling a piece of storage and moving to a new piece of storage.
That's right.
In which case a storage vMotion actually might accomplish what you're looking for, but then it doesn't leave the legacy machine on the back end.
Right.
It moves it. So it's a unique use case in terms of creating a cloned machine from one piece of storage to another one, wherever that is.
Yeah. And it was a bit of a surprise to us how much demand there was for this. We actually debated whether to bring this to market as a standalone product because it was in the process actually of developing what we're about to talk about now, our data protection capabilities, that we built most of this. But then the cloud service providers we were talking to said, I would take this as a point solution because there's a lot I could do with just a one-time migration capability.
Can I ask people here a quick question? Sorry to steal it from you.
No problem.
But like it's brain trust here. There are lots of other products apart from vSphere replication, like Zerto and Veeam backup and replication. Would you say these are difficult and hard to set up, or very easy to set up and get started with? A statement was made about people don't want the hassle of the DR infrastructure in place.
So it depends.
But the selling point of a lot of these other technologies is it's dead easy to set up. It's not a difficult thing to do.
If the customer's not familiar with the platform, they never use it again, and I work for a service provider, if we put it in their hands to do that initial setup, yeah, there's maybe a little bit of a learning curve for those solutions. Sometimes they'll just say, no, you just do it for us. Tack a services number on there, and they're fine with that. But if they don't want that, then maybe something that has a bit more ease of use might be the right fit for them. Can't really say for sure. But having the unique use case of just a one-time migration is something that we have some customers interested in, and it is true. Setting up a Zerto, maybe a Veeam is a little bit more involved because it goes beyond that use case.
Was that your question, though? Was it about...
It was, because the statement was made that these things are difficult and hard, and customers are looking for something that's a one-trigger solution. But because you can't evaluate all those different technologies and then ascertain whether that's a truthful statement that is one that you believe.
Some are harder than others. Let's just put it that way.
And I think that sometimes customers might not have those products.
They might not have it. They can lease it from a service provider, but then they got to get familiar with it just for that one-time migration.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's a lot of overhead for just a one.
Right, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
But surely if I want that customer to come into my cloud, I'm going to sell that as a service.
Yes.
I'm not going to ask them to do it. I'm going to take care of them, aren't I?
Yes, and you stick the one-time use charge or setup charge on there.
Yeah.
And if they bulk at it, you say, here's the guide.
The real revenue is going to come from me getting them into my cloud, isn't
That's
it?
right.
So it becomes like a P2V kind of thing. It's a thing that you will almost give away
Make it as
to
easy as
get
possible.
that workload into your cloud, isn't
It's a
it?
clone. But the conversation that I thought you were asking is it a difficult conversation to talk about X versus Y versus Z solution? I'm sorry, British. Z solution.
I'll forgive you.
And in that case, as a channel partner representing a number of these companies,
Right.
I like to have the full conversation. What are you looking to accomplish? Is it a backup and recovery solution? Is it a one-time point solution? What are we looking to do in terms of this conversation? And that, I think, is a valid piece of the equation as well. Because everybody has their unique approach.
One of the things I was thinking about is this could be used as a way of onboarding into VMware Cloud on AWS.
It has been validated with AWS, so we did
Is
that.
that a more efficient way than using whatever that VMware is offering as a way of onboarding customers on?
It could be based on whether you have direct connect and you have that bandwidth to get up to VMware Cloud and AWS, or if you have restrictions that keep you from building those VPN tunnels.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. And by the way, you mentioned storage vMotion, and underneath of this, sometime underneath of migration, there is a storage vMotion that has some limitations. For example, for network latency. We don't have these limitations at all. If network 5 minutes down, we don't care. So that's very important. It's really 2 minutes to install because of VIP, and we support VIO. Immediately, it's very intuitive how to run it. It's really simple.
Yeah, I think the lightweight aspect is what's most appealing about it.
You're right. Yes.
We do a lot of data center migrations between on-prem data centers as well as to the cloud. And I could see it being useful for those solutions.
You're absolutely right.
Or putting new servers in, just bundle this with it. And
You're right.
have a path.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things too is that we're completely storage agnostic. So cloud service providers say there's a lot that I can't do. I can't dictate to my customer to get a better network connection to my data center. I can't tell them to change what kind of storage they're running on. I can't really tell them, in many cases, and while it is a good question as to whether the level of difficulty of a DR framework is insurmountable for everybody, it was the complaint that we got because, again, from the CSP's perspective, yes, many of my customers are technically savvy enough to use a more complex tool for the migration, but for those that are not, or for those that encounter a problem because maybe they already have a DR solution in place and the two come into conflict, for all those reasons, they said there's just a lot of corner cases where migration is our Achilles heel. And that's what really drove us to bring this out as a standalone product. But let's move on.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah, sure.
With the migrate tools, are there any sizing restrictions, like maximums, like number of VMs, size of VM? Nope.
Not at all.
So if I've got 1,500 VMs, drop it in there, kick it off?
It's perfectly fine. As I described, if it is independent VMs, that's not related.
Right.
We just migrate one after another in respect of this transport device over network or whatever. There is no limitation. It will be automatically. If something happened, again, we set up vSphere alarm. It will be known, and we continue after that. So that's all flexibilities here.
So if you say there's no limitations, what have you all tested as far as latency? What have you tested for the amount of data that's been migrated, number of VMs?
Okay, we have stress test, obviously, and we migrated tens of virtual machines. As about network, there is no limitations because of this fault tolerance. You see what is very important. If you have independent machines, it's not a good idea to migrate all of them at the same time because you cannot stretch network so much that all data can be replicated. It is related to your questions about scalability and how many VMs and so on. When it is an independent VM or migration group,
yes,
it's or one machine or multiple machines but limited number. And estimator tells us, is it enough network bandwidth to replicate it? So it means that it doesn't matter what's amount of generated for a ground data. Yes, it is important because it could be very high, but we have back pressure because we're an I/O stack. It's totally under our control. So that's the beauty of to be a part of VIA program. Okay, maybe move forward.
Any other questions on the migration